Hello, my name is Emma, and I'm going to show you some underrated books. But first, let's talk about my hair. Guys, let's talk about my hair. I got paint in my hair. And getting paint in your hair is a tough thing. Because paint is hard to get out of anything, but it's hard to get out of your hair. And I'll tell you how it got in my hair. It's quite a family drama. So there's this house. There's this house that my brother and my sister-in-law and my brother's two children, well, my brother and sister-in-law bought it. The children, they don't have money. They bought this house. This house is a small little house, and they lived there for 4 years until my sister-in-law got a new job in Michigan. I live in South Carolina, so Michigan. I just came back from going to Michigan to move them in. So therefore, we had this house. And this house, my parents liked this house. So they're like, we want to make it our retirement home, but we don't want to retire yet. So let's let my sister live in it. My sister's 28. She's a graduate student. She was like, yeah, sure. She's going to live with it. So basically, I've moved in 2 people in the past week and a half. Not to complain, but I have. And then, while I was there today, I was like, I'm going to paint. Meaning my mother ordered me to paint. So I was painting the hallway. Paint. And while I was painting this hallway, paint was dripping onto my hair. So now my hair is covered in paint. Anyway, I'm going to talk to you about some underrated books. I have some underrated books here that I want to share with you. Underrated really depends on your own definition. My definition is a book that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, a book that I've seen people maybe overlook, whatever. A book that I like that I haven't heard a lot about or a lot from other people. This book might have run in your circles or came across in your circles, I'm trying to think of a better way of saying that, many times, and you might have not been interested in it, or maybe a book that you've read and you hate it, or a book that you loved. It's all about inflection. The point is, though, I'm going to share with you some underrated books. The first book is a book I read very recently, meaning I finished it yesterday, and that is The Imperfectionist by Tom Rockman? I don't know. This is a mid-listy, I guess, literary fiction novel. I don't know if it's technically mid-list. I actually found out about the definition of mid-list recently, and it's very confusing. I thought it was something else. Anyway, though, this is a book about a newspaper that's dying. It's the year 2007, the internet is rising, and this newspaper is dying. See, inflection. Basically, though, it follows a bunch of people who work at the newspaper in various positions. They're small vignettes, almost like short stories, where they're connected, the characters, but not too connected. Their biggest connection is they all work at this newspaper. It's subtle, it's interesting, the characters are complex and well written for these short little vignettes. It kept me interested. I find short story collections pretty boring most of the times, or they don't particularly keep me going or keep me interested, but the fact that these were connected and it's not technically a short story collection kept me very interested, and I really enjoyed it. I haven't heard that many people talk about it. I saw Max from Weldon Books had a Goodreads review about it or whatever, but beyond that, not many reviews. I really enjoyed it. If you like literary fiction, if you like things about writing and about newspapers and about print media, anything like that, this is really probably going to be up your alley. Next is a classic that I love, and that is Miss Pettigrew Lives for a Day by Winifred Watson. This book was written in the 1930s, I believe, and it follows a woman named Miss Pettigrew. And Miss Pettigrew is a spinster. Hate that word. She's a spinster, and she's chilling, and she needs to get a job, so she ends up accidentally nannying for a 20-something starlit woman and has to kind of babysit her throughout her day. And it follows Miss Pettigrew and her transformation and her being free and living her life and having fun and having adventures. And it's a lot of fun. It's incredibly charming. The characters are richly written and interesting. It's one of my favorite books from this period. I love it. And it made me love books from this period. It made me love books written by women about women in the early 20th century. Next is a book that is very much a mid-list book, I believe. It's a supernatural book. It's a lot of fun. It's adult. It's called The City of Dark Magic by Magnus Flight. Magnus Flight is a pseudonym for 2 ladies. This book is about a woman who goes to Prague for a summer job where she's cataloging Beethoven's manuscripts, and it is so much fun. There's ghosts and hauntings. There's Beethoven and music. There's the city of Prague. It's sprawling and interesting, and really just a great summer read if you want to read something supernaturally and not too intense, but still a lot of fun. This is for you. There's a fun cast of characters. I keep saying fun, that's annoying. There's a great big cast of characters. My camera stopped recording, but whatever, we're going to keep going. Anyway, this is a fun book, and I think that if you like supernatural reads, you're going to like this. Next, we have a fully just from the dictionary definition of literary fiction, and that is The Woman Upstairs by Claire Massat. I read this for a class, a book I never heard of. Wow, that was a weird pronunciation of never. This follows a woman named Nora. Nora is an elementary school teacher but longs to be an artist. She is a woman upstairs, not in the Bertha Mason sense, more in the fact that she's quiet, unassuming, but likable enough that people are nice to her and notice her, but not interesting enough that people notice her. Basically, she's living her life and wishes it was something else or something more, until she meets a family, including a woman who's an artist from France, and they form a bond. And it's about her figuring out what her art means, or maybe starting to figure out what her art means, what she wants, unraveling the relationship she had with her mother, and maybe what her mother wanted. It's about being a woman and figuring out what it means to be a woman. It's a lot of that sort of thing. It's really interesting and says a lot of beautiful things about art particularly. I really enjoyed those chapters and wrote an entire paper about the way art is talked about in this novel. It's really great, and if you like strong women or strong and interesting women in literary fiction, this is a good one. Next, we have an underrated YA series, and that is The Name of the Star by Maureen Johnson. I've heard a lot about a lot of different YA series, but I don't hear a ton about Maureen Johnson's The Name of the Star Shades of London series. The Name of the Star is about a girl who goes to London for boarding school. While she's at boarding school, there's a series of Jack the Ripper-esque murders, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. On the way to figuring out what's going on, she encounters ghosts and weird people following her and lots of other crazy hijinks. It's part of the series. I've only read the first 2 books, but I enjoyed both. It has sort of a vibe if you like the Raven Boys. Not quite like that, but in terms of the supernatural elements, it's sort of similar. I really enjoyed this book, and I enjoyed the series a lot. And there's not a lot of romance in this first novel, so you can kind of ignore that if that's not your deal, if you don't really like reading about romance, especially in YA. This is a good one. It's a good read. Find it on Goodreads. Finally, I'm going to show you a memoir that I think is really great. No, I have 2 more books, sorry. The next one is a memoir, and that's My Life in France by Julia Child. This book has probably been heard of. You've probably heard of it, or probably am aware of it, but you maybe not thought to read it, or maybe you've seen the movie Julia and Julia and not read the book. My Life in France is a memoir about Julia Child's time in France when her husband decides or has to move there for work. She lives in Paris, but spends some time in the countryside. It's about food. It's about her burgeoning relationship with fine dining and cooking. This is where she learns how to be the Julia Child we know and love. It's a beautiful portrait of a marriage and a woman falling in love with food and falling in love with the city. It's great and wonderful. Give it a read. And then finally, I'm going to show you a book that I have talked about before in an underrated video, and that is The Pigeon Pie Mystery by Julia Stewart. This is a historical fiction novel sort of set in the Victorian era about a woman, a princess, who is kind of down on her luck and has to move into a royal sort of government-owned place full of upper crust people. A murder occurs and she has to figure out what's going on or be a part of it. I read it a long time ago, so the plot details are a little fuzzy, but it's so much fun, full of hijinks, full of fancy clothes and fancy things, and it's really great. There's a little touch of romance in here if you like that, or if you don't, you can again ignore it pretty easily. It's a wonderful and charming book. And then finally, I thought I would show you a couple books that I've gotten recently that I had never heard of. The first one is this book called The Bronte Cabinet, 3 Lives and 9 Objects by Deborah Lutz. This is a biography of the 3 main or most famous Bronte sisters, but it's told through the objects that they loved, shared, were interested in. It sounds incredibly interesting and totally up my alley, and I never heard of it before. The other book is this book, Girl Waits with Gun, a cop sisters novel by Amy Stewart. This is sort of a pulp fiction-y, 1930s mobstery-like book. I don't actually know a lot about it, but it has a great cover, and it seems to be about ladies fighting and being detectives, so... Anyway, I hope you enjoy this novel. Sorry about the cut in the middle. Things happen. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.